Hello, beautiful people. Our scars reminds us of our history, and there is purpose for every pain that we go through in life. You're welcome to Share My Pain with V. Do you know why you need to sometimes come out and share your story? It's because someone somewhere needs it to heal. Today with me in the house, I have an amazingly strong woman. And when I mean she's strong, I can tell you she's just a very strong woman. Now, don't let me do all the introduction for her, so let her just introduce herself to the house and to our audience all over the world. Welcome, ma.
Hi, Vicky. How are you today? Thank you for having me on the show.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So, how has it been? How has it been with you?
It's been a journey, a very, what I call a roller coaster. It's been one hell of a journey. The life has just been beautiful, because I don't like to use negative words anymore. But then, here we are, becoming a lawyer, a sexual abuse survivor and advocate, and serving as a voice for victims of sexual abuse has been indeed a journey.
And you said you are the founder and CEO of Jewel's Hive Initiative, and you're also a barrister. That's Barrister Toyin Falaiye. Did I get it?
Yes, my name is Barrister Toyin Falaiye. Like I said earlier, I'm a lawyer by profession, and then I'm the founder and president of Jewel's Hive Initiative, a sexual abuse safe space.
I know the journey must have been very tough, because I think the very first time we met was Givers Club.
Yes.
And that's over 2 years now.
That's actually 3 years ago.
Okay, 3 years ago
yes.
that I've seen. So I didn't really get to know much about you. I just know you are this active lady that. But when I started seeing some things on Facebook, I was like, really? Has this lady really gone through stuff like that? And I felt, okay, let me just get across to you and bring you to share my pain. So, what actually gave birth to Jewel's Hive Initiative?
Sometimes when I tell people that Jewel's Hive Initiative was a vision given to me by God, people are surprised. But actually, I was a victim of sexual abuse, but I never gave it a thought that I would do a non-governmental organization in that regard. So when I got the name Jewel's Hive Initiative, in my dream, December 2016, I just wrote it down somewhere. It wasn't until the memories of what happened to me over 22 years ago began to flood my mind. And what really gave me the strength and the courage to go all out to share my story was because I personally was feeling hot that what I went through in the early mid-90s has become prevalent in our society in the 21st century. It was so sad that we began to hear cases of fathers raping their daughters, uncles raping their cousins, and basically something very, very similar to what I went through as a young adult. And I said, no, this cannot continue. And I realized that the reason why a lot of people were shying away from talking about sexual abuse was because of the silence culture. We were taught to keep quiet. We were taught never to talk about sexual abuse. So the only way I could let people understand why I run Jewel's Hive was to come out and share my story. And honestly, that took a lot from me. It took a whole lot from me.
So at what age were you actually abused? Like, at what age did you understand the meaning of sex? Like that that, okay, a man, at what age?
Okay, at age 10 I was raped. But then, I did not understand that it was called rape. I did not understand what it meant to be a virgin. I was 10 years old. I was just barely 3 years in the city. I was a village girl, actually. And I was just barely 3 years in the city. And I remember one hot afternoon, I just got back from school. I was in primary 5. And the next thing, I was shouting and screaming because there was this neighbor's son who had come into the house and I didn't know. So, he raped me. All I saw was blood all over the bed and I was screaming. And then another neighbor came into the house and spanked the boy and sent him out, and she cleaned me up and told me not to tell anybody. In all honesty, I didn't understand what that was. I just knew that somebody had injured me, It wasn't until 2 years later, I was about 12, when the real abuse started. And again, I can remember that night very well. I had been asked to sleep in the living room. My aunt's husband, that is my auntie, my father's elder sister, had taken me in. And so her husband asked me to sleep in the living room. So that night, I remember that I just got up and I saw him holding my wrapper. Initially, I didn't understand what it was because he was a very strict man who used to beat us a lot. So when I saw that, I felt I had done something wrong in the afternoon and he wanted to scold me. So I was busy saying, Daddy, I'm sorry, Daddy, I'm sorry. And he said, shh, lie down there. And he began to touch me. And like I said, I still did not understand whether it was called sex or sexual abuse. But it now started night after night. Night after night. It got so bad that when he was coming, I would be afraid. I would just wake up and just sit down and begin to cry even before he comes. So it graduated from touching to fondling to oral sex, everything. And it went on for 7 years. So at the time I turned 15, I knew what it was. I knew it was something bad. I'd always known it was something bad, but like I said, I didn't understand it. And I remember the night, the second time he came, he said, do you want to go back to the village? I said, no, sir. He said, okay. Whatever I do to you, don't tell anybody. If you tell anybody, I will send you back to the village and you will die after 7 days. And that scared me terribly. So when the whole thing continued, I could not tell anybody. It kept ringing in my head that I would be sent back to the village. And I was already enrolled in school, a government school, and I was doing brilliantly well. I was, acing the class. I was becoming prefect of the school and all of that. I was representing the school in competitions within and outside the state. So for me, that was a big deal. And that's why sometimes I tell people, sexual abuse was the price I had to pay to get an education. Now, when I turned 15, I had become fully aware of what was happening to my body, and it was no longer funny. You know how I was 12 when I started growing breast, and then you know how it is as ladies where we're growing breast and it hurts, and then somebody's coming to touch it. So it wasn't something I enjoyed. So I knew it was a bad touch. But again, like I said, I couldn't tell anyone. So one day when I turned 15, I guess I just got frustrated with everything and I attempted to kill myself. I was a young 15-year-old. I didn't know whatever it was called at that time until now that we know it's called depression and suicidal attempt. I just knew that, okay, let me just die. Maybe when I die, this man will stop touching me. After all, I would be dead. And that night was significant because his wife was not at home. She had gone out and there was a bomb blast. So she didn't come back home that night. We were all worried and the neighbors came and were trying to, calm us down that everything will be fine. So the next morning, she came back miraculously. And the night before she came back, of course, in fact, that night was when I remembered I had full sexual intercourse with me on his matrimonial bed, over and over again. So by the morning, I was drained. I was running mad, literally. So when mom came back and he ran to the door, gave her a hug and kissed her, I just felt, it felt like somebody had just killed me. Because I couldn't understand why this man would do this to me in the night. And the next morning he was acting like nothing happened. So I just went into the kitchen, picked up the knife, and I wanted to end it. And mom came into the kitchen, and so I dropped the knife. But it continued. 16, 17, going on 18. Now, along the line, I told 2 people. I told my childhood best friend. And she said, tell mommy. I said, but I can't tell mommy. They will send me and mommy back to the village, and I don't want to go back to the village. I told another person, said the same thing, tell mommy. I said, I can't tell mommy. So it was that person that said, okay. He gave me a strategy. So 17 going on 18 one night, when he came, I just pulled out a knife I had taken the knife because, like I said, the person gave me a strategy. So I tried it. And I pulled out the knife and I said, what you're doing to me is bad, and it is called incest. He was like, how did you know? Who have you been talking to? Who told you the name? I said, nobody. I've been reading a lot of books, and they say it is called incest and it is bad. And if they catch us, they will banish us from the land, you know? In my innocence. So please stop touching me, stop coming to me. I said, okay, I won't come again. I won't come again. I said, if you come again, I will hurt you or I'll kill myself. So he left. And for a long time, in 7 years, and I mean in 7 years, I had stopped sleeping, got to a point I stopped sleeping. Once it was 12 midnight, he would come, and there was an automatic alarm in my head, and I would just wake up and just cringe at one corner of the living room. So that night, second night, third night, fourth night, fifth night, he wasn't coming. I was like, oh, I could breathe. And I began to gradually sleep again. So I think he didn't come for like a month or more. But again, one night, you know when they say leopards can never change their skin. But the night he came, that he was caught, I had slept. So I didn't know what transpired. The next morning, he had gone to work and it was just mommy and I in the house. I remember very well, it was SS2 going to SS3. I was 18 going on 19 actually. And mom called me into the room and asked me, what is going on between you and dad? I was shocked. I was scared. I was afraid. Because this was a man that was very, very strict. Even while he was sleeping with me, he didn't stop him from beating me whenever I did wrong. He didn't stop him from calling me names and saying negative words to me. That one drained my self-esteem. So when mom asked me, my first thought process was, oh, he has gone around to turn the story around to tell mommy something else. I was scared. She asked me a second time and then a third time, and I burst into tears and I told her, Daddy has been coming to touch me every night. She didn't even let me land. You know, she just screamed, "What oh, you know, in Yoruba, you have killed me. Why didn't you tell me?" I said, Mommy, I could not tell you. And then she ran out of the house, ran to a neighbor and called the neighbor, and the neighbor told her, you better don't tell anybody, this is a taboo. You don't tell anybody. Take Toyin to a church and do deliverance. And you know, I was taken to a church and they did deliverance. And I was asked to read Psalm 51. You know, when I was to enter university was when I realized that the damage that abuse had done to me. First off, you know, I told you I'm a lawyer now, but I didn't set out to become a lawyer. I had always admired all the, you know, Fumi Yodas and Mira Mathos on television. So I'd wanted to read mass communication and become a newscaster. It was when I was reading the JAM brochure, I saw law and I saw what you could, you know, what you would do as a lawyer, defend human rights, fight for the masses and things like that. I was like, okay, if I read law, I can sue my auntie's husband when I graduate. That was it. That was the point where I changed from my mass comm first choice, English second choice, to law first choice and English second choice.
But there's something I want to ask you. As in, how come, were there occurrences of pregnancy over those years of abuse from
No,
the man?
interestingly and luckily enough, no. I think this person had it all planned out. For the first 2 years when this whole thing started, in all honesty, he didn't have penetrative sex with me. And that's why I said, because we're on television and for, you know, for sanity's sake, I don't want to describe it, but I was like a pawn. The man would touch every part of me with everything. I would be made to perform oral sex on him. It was terrible, honestly. And then when the penetrative sex started, I think he just knew that it would be scandalous. He was a police officer, a senior one at that. So I felt he too had it all planned out. So whenever he was having penetrative sex with me, he knew when to pull out. So luckily, there was never any time I got pregnant. And then again, there was this thing he used to give us. So I wouldn't know. But there was this, he would just come home and wrap this drug up and tell all of us to take it. Myself, mom, and his son. He had a son from another woman. So it was just a small family of 4. So I would take those drugs. So I wouldn't know. Maybe he just felt, whatever it was, maybe he didn't want me to get pregnant. So we would stand in front of him and swallow those drugs before we leave. A lot of things actually happened. So I wouldn't know. But I never consciously got pregnant at any point during the abuse.
So coming back to your story of choosing law over
Yes.
mass comm,
Yes.
so how did that go?
So I chose law over mass comm. I was 21, and also not only choosing law, because this is where I'm going to. Abuse of any kind, sexual, verbal, psychological, emotional, will alter the entirety of your life.
Sure.
Everything about your life. So I was 21. I had made the first, thankfully not a wrong decision, but like I said, he had turned me away from what I wanted to originally become in life. I chose to read law. I made a decision never to get married. I made a lot of other decisions because I just felt like I wasn't worthy anymore. I had no more self-esteem. I was scared of men. I hated sex, and I would just cringe at, the sight of boys and men because I began to see everybody as an abuser. So that's how I got into university. So getting into university, I was, you know how we have alter ego.
Yeah.
So the real me is the boisterous, vivacious, brilliant, playful Toyin. And then abuse had made me the opposite of all of that. So when I got into the university, I had to pretend a lot to be, because I just needed to be in everybody's face. I felt that I was short. I'm still short anyway. So I felt that a lot of things were against me. So if in class, if the teacher asked a question, I'll be the first to answer. I'll shout at the top of my voice. So in school, people used to tell me I too know, oversabi, loquacious, everything. But the truth of the matter was I was dealing with low self-esteem. That's number one. Number two, like I said, I began to read law, and I wasn't dating anybody in the university because I was scared. Along the line, I began to date, but I realized again that I became attracted to only older men. So if you were going to date me, you had to be at least 10 years older. That's the only way I feel that both of us are on the same intellectual plane and we can have a decent conversation. But on the flip side now, you realize it's because my abuser was way older. And that's what I was exposed to as a child. So coming into adulthood, I felt that it was only somebody who's older that could handle me physically, emotionally, sexually, and otherwise. And even in marriage, I had married a much older person. My husband is way older than I am. I don't regret it because I have one of the most beautiful marriages you can think of. But then, it altered everything. Now coming to Jewel's Eye Initiative, you know how I read law quite alright. Let's not go into what I went through university. I was almost raped by a lecturer again. Victims of abuse suffer abuse over and over again. I don't know whether there's a statistics to that, but we've come to realize that a lot of us who've been through abuse have been through other abuses. So I read law, I became a lawyer, and I started practicing in a law firm. And the first year was beautiful, the second year was beautiful. Let me just say the first 4 years was beautiful. But again, because I made a drastic decision as a 21-year-old to read law, to fight abuse. But along the line, I forgot. And started doing law as law, going to court, attending to clients and all of that. So it wasn't until 2016, like I said, when life just went upside down again. I was married, trusting God for children. Then my mom, I call her my mom, she raised me, but that's my auntie now. She passed. My mother-in-law passed, my father-in-law passed, and everything was going south all over again. And that's what will take me to finding purpose. And then I was like, what's going on in my life? Why is everything not working? I thought I was over this. And then I realized that the first thing was I had not forgiven my abuser. So immediately my auntie died and I went to bury her. I cut off all communication. Because another thing that broke me was pretending to like this man when I know I did not. You know, after the abuse stopped officially, we both hated each other and we knew it. In his own case, he didn't even hide it. He told everybody that cared to listen that Toyin was a bad child. She would never amount to anything. She would get pregnant in university and come back as a, you know, every negative words were thrown at me. And my aunt would plead with me not to let any of those words come to fruition in my life. You know. So, when things started going wrong with me again, I just went back to, okay, it is because of the abuse. This person must have taken my glory or something away from me. And that's why my life can never be what it should be. And I became depressed all over again. This time around, I knew it was depression. I had all the symptoms that is associated with this depression, and I got to the point of attempting suicide. So last year I attempted suicide twice again. It was after my second suicidal attempt that didn't go through, thank God. That's why I'm here now. I had to ask the Holy Spirit. I'm born again. And, you know, in as much as I don't want to preach, but there's this supreme being that if not for him, I wouldn't be here. So at some point in my life, immediately I got to the university, I got born again. But of course, you know how we backslide and come back and backslide and come back. But then that last year, I went back to that man, Holy Spirit, and I said, what exactly is going on with my life? I don't understand it. And you didn't make me kill myself. I wanted to kill, let me just die. I'm not worthy. And then he pointed me back to my plan for 2016 December, going to 2017. And he said, I said, okay, I'm going into 2019 and I need you to show me what the goals for the year are. And I heard clearly, there's purpose in your pain. Find it. Like, okay, purpose in my pain. Which of the pain? Because the sexual abuse was even one of the pains I've been through. Then he said, go back to your journal of 2016. And truly, I went back to that journal and I opened it and I saw Jewel's eyes initiated. I was like, okay. What again? He said, I wrote safe haven for victims of abuse. I'm like, okay, so. And the Holy Spirit began to reveal to me what I read law, the reason I went to read law. And I remembered and I was like, oh, okay, so I'm supposed to be fighting for victims of sexual abuse. How? I mean, that was going to be because, you know, even till now, I have rape cases that I'm handling, and after 2-3 attempts of spending my whole day at the police station, the victims or their parents will call me up and say, you know what, we want to just drop the case. And you're like, did you just say that, man? I've been at the police station from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. today. You know? So, you know, there's a lot of stigma, there's a lot of victimization, there's a lot of silence culture with sexual abuse. So when the Holy Spirit told me to start doing that, I truly speaking, my dear sister, I was afraid, very afraid. But you know, because when God gives you a vision, He makes all the provision. And the provision may not necessarily be financial provision. We need to understand that. So I was sitting pretty in my home one day, and a lady DM'd me on Instagram and said, hello, good evening. You made a comment on somebody's post on sexual abuse when they asked you what were you doing at 18, and you replied at 18 you were attempting your second suicide. I was like, so can you remember? That was over 3 months ago. I said yes. And she said, okay, would you like to come and share your story on TV? Television, like how? You know. I'm like, you know what, I will need to run it by my husband because I'm married and I have never done this. I've never said this to anybody except a very few people. So I shared it with my husband, and my husband was like, you need to do this. I'm the one who lives with you in this home. And I know how you sometimes exhibit some of these tendencies, and I'm scared for you. So if speaking up will help you heal, then you need to do this. And so last year I went on television and I shared my story. And it was like, I've not recovered from that episode.
Now, you say you are married.
Yes.
The point is, I know you're married to a good man, but how did he take the news?
The truth of the matter is that when I met my husband and then boyfriend, who were still dating, courting per se, because he was born again and he wanted the Christian type of dating, even though I didn't want it. I just told him, you see that my auntie's husband, I don't like him. And he was like, why? I said, he abused us as children. I don't know if you get it. And it's like, how? I said, he was a very wicked man. He used to beat us, put tear gas in our faces. I could not even tell him directly. As we became, deeper and it was obvious we were headed, I was like, well, the man even actually molested me sexually. I was like, really? But honestly, I didn't tell him the details. I think my husband also started finding out the extent of the abuse when I granted my first television interview.
And when you granted your first television interview and he actually found out the depths of their abuse, how was his reaction as a man?
I don't like talking about my marriage on air and off air because sometimes God just blesses us with what we ask for. In all honesty, if you remember when I was telling you, I said I did not want to get married. So there was a point in my life where I had to change that orientation. That was in 2012. And I write a lot. So when I changed my mind about getting married, I brought out a piece of paper, a jotter, and wrote out how I wanted the man to be. And I took it to God in prayer. So before I answered the question of what his reaction was, I actually prayed for the kind of husband that I married. And I got exactly what I prayed for and more. So on that day, after the TV interview, immediately the cameras went off. It was like the open tap in my head. I started crying. I didn't even understand that I had bottled up so much. And the next night I said, I need to call my husband. And everybody just went, oh. And so when I called, because he was watching, it was live. It was a live recording. So he was watching me back home in Abuja. I was in Lagos. And I called him. And he just started saying, calm down, baby. You did well. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. And so that was his reaction. He just kept saying, I'm proud of you. And I was like, how did I perform? He said, 70 over 100. I'm proud of you. And so that was it. It wasn't until when I got home. And I think, actually, to be very honest, my husband and I have never really sat down to talk about it. So when I got back home, he just kept encouraging me about, okay, now you've done this. Now you need to go all out and fight for other people who are silenced and everything. Because I think that whether or not he's spiritual and all the good man, there's a human side of him that cannot stand, what I'm trying to tell him has been done to me. This man is still alive. I mean, my abuser. So, and I also don't want to, as much as I don't want to ever see him, I've forgiven him, or I try to convince myself that I've forgiven him. But I also don't want to tell my husband so much that we just make my husband see the man one day and just strangle him. So sometimes, because like early last year, it was like, have you called your uncle? I said, please, I beg you, I don't want to ever talk to this man. And he's like, is it that bad? I said, it is worse than you think. So somehow my husband reacts positively to my issues of sexual abuse based on me going out for other people. But when it comes to just me and him talking about what happened to me, I think both of us are just, he knows I'm finding healing and closure. Well, to a large extent now I have found it because I've not cried today, right? So it's showing how much I have healed. Because when I just started telling my story, in the midst of the interview, I'd just break down and cry. But I'm beginning to heal a lot and gather strength from all the encouraging feedbacks that I get from people. And then writing a book about it when other people started sharing their own stories. So I had to collate their stories also with mine, because not everybody might be on television, but when people all over the world can read your story, victims of abuse will also find healing. So back to my husband, I think we're just trying to help each other. He's trying to help me heal completely and find closure, and then he's trying not to bridle hate in his heart against my abuser.
And you spoke about a book, that you actually wrote a book, and fortunately we have the book here on the table, Beyond the Abuse, True Life Sexual Abuse Survivor Stories by Toyin Falaiye, forward by Olive Emoji. So maybe you would like to tell us more, like a little bit about the book.
This is my first baby. And I don't know. I know this is not supposed to be some church program, but I cannot grant this interview without talking about this person called the Holy Spirit. Like I said last year, when he started dealing with me and telling me to find purpose in my pain, he told me I'll write 4 books. And I was like, me, writer. If there's anything I hate, I know I love to write, but I hate to carry pen and paper and start writing. And it's like, he gave me the title of each of the books, the day to release each of the books, the people to write the forward, and everything, and the designs of each of the books. Sis, I was actually scared. And so when, after the TV interview, like I said last year, a lot of women were calling me, were crying and saying, thank you for finding the courage to represent us, to share your story. In this book, there are storytellers who are over 50, over 40. So it's not a collection of stories of just people who are 18 or 17. So for you to know how much people have bottled up pain. One of them is married with 3 children. She's married quite all right, but she was abused. And she was raped, actually. So when they all started coming out and reaching out to me and telling me their stories, and the Holy Spirit said, that's your first book. I was like, how? I wrote this book in 3 days, even though I took over a month to do the final finishing work. But the Holy Spirit just told me to begin to document every of those stories. So I told them to send it in, and then I have my story in there also. So Beyond the Abuse is a true life story, just like it says, true life sexual abuse survivor story. Real women, I know all of them, one-on-one, who summoned courage to share their story on sexual abuse. You'd see of rape, of incest, of your neighbor raping a child and all. And what this book will do is that if you've ever been a victim of sexual abuse, when you read it, you find healing, knowing that people have gone through something like yours. If you've never been a victim of sexual abuse, you will find out the causes, how to prevent it, how to take care of your children, how to guard your words. It's in this book. If you feel that, I'm not a victim of sexual abuse, and okay, it's just a book that is for everybody to learn a lesson or two. Because like I said, this is 2019. I was molested from 1998 to the year 10. When I was 10, that was 1995. And then the next one started 1997 to the year 2003. And then this is 2019. And like I said, sexual abuse has even become an epidemic. There's no day in the news that you will not hear a case of rape, of molestation, of abuse, of sexual violence, domestic abuse, men killing their wives now. It's crazy. So this book is just my first book. Like I said, I have 3 more coming up, but not on sexual abuse. Just to enlighten people, but they are real life stories. So when a lot of people come and they're like, why would you write such a book? You just made us cry. I said, well, my intention was not to make you cry, but really the stories in here are so touching,
So if people want to get the book, how can they get across to you to get the book?
Okay, I could drop some copies with you here in Akure. Oh. Yes, because we're yet to put it online. Oh. Like I said, the book is beyond the book. For me, it's a message. Mm-hmm. So I don't want it to be something somebody will just read online and forget about it. I prefer when you're holding the hard copy with you. So we'll put it online much later, but right now we're still selling hard copies. A copy is just 2,000 naira, but we also do discount sales, especially for students. So I'm going to find a means to send some copies to you, and then anybody that wants to buy can get across to you.
So before we go, what's your parting statement to the world? Like, what do you have to say to people out there, both victims of sexual abuse, normal people, emotional abuse, physical abuse, even people going through a lot in their lives, marriages? What do you have to say to the world before we?
I'll take it in 3 parts so that it will cover everybody. For victims of abuse, sexual abuse especially, rape, incest and the likes, the only service you can do to yourself and to humanity is to speak out. If you die with it in silence, it won't solve any problem. If you think speaking out is stigmatization, if you don't expose that abuser, that pedophile, they will go on to become prey all over the society and more damage will be done. For somebody who is going through any form of abuse or who is battling any challenges right now, I've come to understand that God will, or if God takes you through a dark tunnel, it is because He wants your story to glorify Him. So if you're going through currently, hang in there, keep faith alive, read stories of people who've been through and who have come out of it, and find strength. When it is time for you to birth purpose, you realize that your purpose is usually very, very closely linked to your pain. You know, most of us have now birthed ministries. I never for one thought I'd do something in the field of sexual abuse, but because it was purpose and God didn't want that what happened to me some years ago to just die, He has bettered a purpose in my pain. So if you're going through stuff, just hang in there, stay strong. Like you said, be close to that supreme maker of yours and find out why He wants you to go through that path and how you would come out victorious. And generally to everybody at large, you know, just like Vicky said, we all have stories. Not all of us will have the strength, the courage, the boldness to come out on live television or wherever to share our stories. But even within your sphere of contact, you can inspire people. You know, I do vulnerable inspiration series. I use my social media platforms to share various things I've been through, and a lot of people reach out to me it's overwhelming. So people need, just like you rightly said again, people need to draw strength from somebody when they know that person have gone through stuff. So please, if you know, within where you live, at your place of work, just every day, just talk to somebody. Yes, I know that some people will come to you with negative vibes, but again, in all of it, let it be at the end of the day that it is all to the glory of God.
So if people want to reach you, get across to you, maybe you could just tell us your social media handles and ways they can reach you precisely.
Okay, our Instagram handle for Jewels Hive Initiative is Jewels_Hive, JEWELS_HIVE. That's our Instagram handle. And our official hotline is 080-9156-1956.
Mrs. Toyin, we have a little gift from the sponsors of this program called SGC Ministry.
Wow.
So it's just a little hamper from the sponsors of this program, and the program is heard on SGC TV station. This is a Christian-based initiative called Supernatural Gospel Crusaders, and they also perform the functions of an NGO reaching out to the world with the gospel of Christ, uniting people and reviving nations. So they said we should present you this little gift for coming to the show. So we really, really appreciate you. And you can follow us on Instagram at Share My Pain with V, or follow us at SGC Ministry. And personally, you can follow me on my Facebook page, add me as friend, Ogundele Abisinwola. Then I also have on IG also, you can still follow me at Restored Minds TV, Restored Minds Initiative, or you can write to me. Maybe you have a story that you want me to publish, or you want to be a guest on this show. You can write to me at sharemypainwithv@gmail.com, or you can contact me via 0818-6793-026. This is Share My Pain with V, and you are watching SGC TV. Till we come your way again some other time. Keep watching SGC TV. Remember to smile, survive, and succeed. Bye.